Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching Last Night in Soho, starring Thomasin McKenzie, Anya Taylor-Joy, Matt Smith, Terrence Stamp, and it was directed by Edgar Wright, the same director who gave us Baby Driver. Now, when it comes to nostalgia, it can be a powerful thing. That longing for the past, a time that many people feel is better than the present. I think it can be felt from pretty much any generation. And nostalgia definitely fuels the plot of this film, both in its glitz and glamour and also in its darker ways. Let's get to the story, shall we? The story follows Eloise, played by Thomasin McKenzie, who is an aspiring fashion designer who finds that she's been accepted into a London fashion design college. While things seem to be looking up for her, with the exception of some awful roommates and having a hard time fitting into the London area, she soon discovers that she can somehow see into the past, the 1960s to be exact, where she follows a beautiful young woman who with dreams of being a star named Sandy, played by Anya Taylor-Joy. As she sees Sandy's life in the 1960s, she notes that while her life is actually kind of similar to her own ambitions, she sees that maybe there are some darker aspects lurking in the further she goes into this past viewpoint. A past that drives her nuts and drives her to try and find out what the heck happened back in the 1960s. But that's all I'll say about the story. When it comes to the trailers of the film, it definitely did a good job making you wonder what the film would be about, especially since the film definitely has quite a few surprises in what should be a good psychological mystery. There are several fake outs that actually caught me off guard. There are several twists that I didn't see coming. And several of these scares, both the jump scares and the more psychological, subtle ones, did manage to leave me creeped out several times. Not to mention, both Mackenzie and Anya Taylor-Joy do a great job with their performances. Even Diana Rigg, who plays a landlady named Mrs. Collins, does a great job. And since this is her final film role, I think it's actually a fitting way for her career to end. And the film's actually dedicated to her, so I think she did really well here too. Plus, there's this one character played by Matt Smith, aka the 11th Doctor, who's fantastically creepy and who seems like a generally one-note antagonist, but who definitely has quite a few twists that make him a bit more developed. Also, the whole style of the film bleeds nostalgia, and it absolutely is a love letter to that time period. From the cinematography to the costumes to the production design, you can tell Edgar Wright had a real vision for this, just as much as he did for Baby Driver and the Cornetto trilogy. And one thing you can say about Edgar Wright is his films are never boring. But I would say I had a few problems with it. Mainly in that the film is nearly 2 hours long, and it feels like 10 to 15 minutes of that 2 hours could have been cut, and it would have been more effective that way. There are a few scenes that do drag, there are some scenes that I feel could have been altered, and I do feel that there are a few too many twists near the end when less would have been more in this case. It's a bit overstuffed and in some places undercooked. That's not to say that the twists aren't effective, it's just I feel that there's a few too many, and maybe Edgar Wright had too many good ideas and had too much of a good thing on hand here. But the film happens to still keep up a good pace and keeps up a good sense of suspense to the point where those issues don't really kill the film at all. I just feel that this isn't his best work. But as a whole, I think Last Night in Soho is a fascinating film, especially if you consider the filmography of Edgar Wright. And both Mackenzie and Anya Taylor-Joy should have amazing careers after this because honestly, their performances alone are worth the price of admission. That's why I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. See you next time.